Stand clear.
100% Wild podcast.
So for all you listeners,
Hello, and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dreary Outdoors 100% Wild podcast, episode number 322. Got him. We're sponsored by DeerCast. I am Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury. And what else?
We've got a special guest in studio. We've got the Safe Buck.
Oh, and Aaron Bennett.
Oh, right.
What's up, Aaron?
What's going
AB.
on, man? Never been on the show before. I feel
haven't?
special.
Yes, you have.
Long time listener.
No, I have not.
could've
Long time listener.
Yeah, right. Here's a guy who literally works out of his truck, drives all day. Guarantee I'd never heard an episode.
His brother's
I've
a
heard a
listener.
few clips.
Yeah.
I've heard a few clips.
Andrew
That's
is
more than most of our team.
Andrew is like a super fan.
Yes.
He's a power listener.
And he's going to be pissed that he's not on this episode.
You think?
Yeah, a little bit.
Nah,
don't think
he'll
so.
be all right. He'll be all right.
Pissed in a happy way. Like, oh, man.
Like, oh, man, screw Aaron.
Yeah.
Are you the big brother or is...
I'm the oldest, yeah.
Okay.
Don't say big. All right. That's some sort of ist.
Is that sizeism?
Yes. And he is getting lean and mean, aren't
Trying.
you, buddy?
I'm working on it, man.
Girl.
Right.
Working on it.
Toy like a toiger.
Getting there.
Well, so today we're going to be talking about what's happening in the land business right now because you're an agent with Whitetail Properties. So we're going to get into that, especially if folks are interested in looking at property, kind of what they need to be doing, what the market's doing right now. But I did mention the Safe Buck is up on the set. We made a little switcheroo from the massive buck that's usually right behind me, and we threw the Safe Buck up there yesterday. And when I put him up, I was telling you this earlier, Matt, I recognized that there was kind of a small problem with him.
Not the antler size. Different problem.
Yeah. It's a good looking piece of taxidermy. But I had requested him to be looking the other direction.
Ooh.
It's a semi sneak, and there's no way you can fix
Discount.
that after the fact.
Did you hear what Aaron said? He said discount.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So I messaged the taxidermist. I won't mention the name of who did it, but I said, I don't know that I'll be getting any more shoulder mounts in the near future, but
Just based on history, I'm guessing.
I mean, I'm just saying, so this is how I set myself up for the fall. Like, oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe I should. But if my daughter kills, it would be nice if you guys could do something for her. And they said that they'd take care of
So you're talking about like the double unjinx, right? That's like you.
reverse psychology.
Yeah, the reverse jinx. That's what it is. Nolan Arenado. I've been watching, the Cardinals baseball lately, and they were in Boston, and the first baseman said to him, he's like, Nolan got on first base, and the first baseman's like, hey, after the game, can we exchange jerseys? And he said, and he was in a bad slump. He goes, yeah, I can't hit in this thing anyways. So he then had hit 5 home runs in 5 games. He almost hit a 6th. He was literally a foot to the left of the foul pole.
It was the jersey.
The left field foul pole. And then he hit one the next game. Yeah.
Jeez.
So the word on the street is he reverse jinxed him, unjinxed himself.
Well, you and I need to do something like that for our upcoming deer season.
But I don't think it works because all last season we talked about how bad we sucked and we still sucked.
There's no other way we can like self-flagellate here.
That's right.
I'm hoping by coming on the show, it breaks my curse of not killing any booners. So
good luck.
Yeah.
Do you have any to hunt? That's where it always starts.
I'll know in about a month and a half.
That's right.
About 2 months.
Yeah, you had some pretty nice deer last year that you were on. One that you missed, but did that one end up getting killed?
He got hit by a car.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How big do you think he would have gone?
He was
50s, wasn't he?
He was low 60s.
Yeah.
I had
It was
actually
a good-
missed that
good
deer
deer.
twice out of the same blind with Andrew filming both times.
It's Andrew's fault.
I'm just gonna blame it all
He's
on
the bad
Andrew.
jersey.
Yeah. No, and that deer was a really homeboy too. Like when I missed him at the end of October, I wasn't too concerned because I was like, well, if he makes it through rifle, he's gonna be back because he was like the last couple of years. Like he was very consistent. I was like, we'll get on him again. And then right around probably mid-December, early December, like when he should have been coming back, like he just kind of vanished.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, gun season's over. Like, where'd he go? Neighbors weren't seeing him or anything like that, and couldn't figure it out. And then after the season, they had found him. So
what, in a ditch on the side of the road, or what?
He was actually, he was probably only, from my understanding, like 20 or 30 yards off the pavement, and he was laying in between a couple rows of hay bales. Like he must have got hit and crawled up in there, and then died right there.
Dang.
So
Brutal.
Yeah. So that's
that sucks.
it's the way it goes, man.
And how
These
many
deer
acres?
have the whole entire countryside to run around. You put a 12-foot strip of pavement in there, they're going to end up on that thing. Get hit
I
by
saw
car.
a gobbler this morning that someone had smashed on 141. And I just wondered kind of what that looked like. Was it trying to fly across the road, or was it strutting, or what happened when it got hit?
You know, but in fairness to them, their instinct, to roam, to all these animals, birds, whatever. And it's like the habitat is just shrinking on them.
Yeah.
At
shrinking.
record paces. You know?
Well, and this is a good place for a PSA. If you see a fawn this time of year, don't touch it. Don't pick it up. Don't move it. It has not been abandoned. And I've been seeing it on Facebook. In fact, someone I know on Facebook found a fawn in a place that they thought it shouldn't be, and they picked it up and they moved it.
Name a name.
Don't touch it.
Was that person a hunter?
A fair weather hunter.
Because I would say most hunters know better.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy not so much.
And if you don't have to be brush hogging out on the farm this time of year, don't. Try to hold off as long as you can.
Still got
a couple weeks.
Turkey eggs, and now there's poults around, and
Yep.
a lot of babies out there.
Yeah.
A lot of babies
Now,
in the woods.
That and mowing clover is a little different, though. I mean, unless
Yes.
your clover is just way out of control, which it shouldn't be at this point. But I know a lot of guys are mowing. We are mowing clover, but yeah, like you needing to brush hog your fields, and it doesn't really need to happen right now. I wait till June.
Well, especially
July.
like the trails. Like a lot of people have trails that are grown up and the grass is 3 foot tall on them, and they want to get their trails mowed out so they can get around the farm. I mean, that's totally understandable. But just know that you might have a fawn laying in there.
Be careful.
Be careful.
Slow.
I've learned the hard way. So
We should mention our real wild clip this week has to do with a growingly common predator. So
I'm intrigued, Tim.
we've got a real wild clip for you this week. Our question of the day is from our buddy Anthony, and he's got a question about food plots. And then our wildlife word is about turkey disease.
All right.
So stick around for all that goodness. And we're going to welcome in some new Rack Pack members. We got a lot of stuff to get to.
So let's jump into it. So Aaron, when I was talking to Tim about having you in, I thought it'd be a good time to, once spring's here and you're getting into summer, typically that's kind of, a good, people are thinking about fall. Not that that's necessarily the best time to buy a piece, but that's the time a lot of people are thinking about it because it's coming into hunting season. So I figured, hey, let's just kind of chat about what's going on with the land market right now and what you're seeing, some trends, and maybe, that for a first time buyer, and we talked about this before. We've had Dan Perez on before. We've done these types of podcasts, but maybe talk about, hey, how can I get started? Because that's the hardest part, coming up with that equity. How much equity do you need for a down payment, that type of stuff, to just get your feet in the water.
Sure. Let's talk about the land market first. It's a little interesting right now. It's still strong. Land is still moving. There's still a lot of buyers out there. With rates creeping up, it's definitely slowed down some of the finance buyers. But there is a lot of cash and a lot of 1031 money out there.
What's 1031 money?
It's 1031 is when you're doing a tax deferred exchange. So in other words, let's say you bought a property and you want to sell it and buy another one. Let's say you're going to profit $100,000. You can do a 1031 exchange and roll all those funds into the next property and not have to pay taxes on it. And that's a very simplified version of it. There's a lot more that goes into it.
There's a lot of restrictions around it.
Yeah. But so there's a lot of people that are wanting to exchange the funds from their sales into another farm.
So it's been a great time to sell a farm, but it's tough to find a replacement farm.
It has been tough.
And so those 1031 guys are almost like, it's almost like not panic, but a little bit of a panic because they don't want to.
Is it capital gains that you end up paying on?
Yes.
The profits that you realize
Yeah.
from it? Okay.
Yeah. And so there's short-term capital gains if you buy a farm and sell it before owning it a full year. There's long-term capital gains after that, and I mean, everybody's trying to play within the guidelines of the system, the tax, code, to find ways to, hold on to their money as long as they can. Well, those 1031 guys, when they need a piece, there's a short window. I think, 45 days after they close on their piece to identify another property.
Yeah, 45 days. And that's not, they can identify up to 3 properties. And that's not a long time, especially in the land market when there's not much available. And every day it goes by, you're looking at your tax liability, what it could be. So
I'm curious, what the government has done to earn those capital gains.
They've given it to Ukraine. They've pissed it away. I mean, that is the problem. Like, hey, I think most hunters, most outdoorsmen, you'll say, hey, I'm a patriot. I'm a great American, but I pay my fair share. But when it comes to what the government does with the money you pay in taxes, they more or less have proven they cannot manage a budget.
No.
What's our deficit that they're the debt
just
ceiling
raising
there?
the debt ceiling.
Yeah,
it's just
was it $37 trillion or whatever? That's a whole different topic.
It's not coming back to you and me. Let's put it that way.
So guys are trying to find ways to work within the tax code legally and defer it. And, and I haven't done a 1031 exchange. I didn't think I would find another piece in the 45 days foolishly when I sold the first farm to buy the second one.
Yeah.
I should have, because I did find one at like day 35. So it screwed up because it was
looking bleak though.
It was. And you have to identify that at close on your piece. So a qualified intermediary.
Well, no, what it is you have after you close on your piece, you have 45 days to identify up to 3 properties, but you can't actually touch your money. Your qualified intermediary basically holds on to the money for you.
Yeah, at closing. You can't at closing, you're not getting those funds.
Yes.
They have to be put into this account with this QI.
Yes.
And so if you don't do that at close, you can't do a 1031 after that.
Yeah, the minute you touch your money, you're liable for the taxes.
Yeah.
So just another reason why it makes sense to have someone who knows what they're doing handle these transactions.
For sure. And even the QI, I mean, that it costs money you got to find a QI, and it might cost you $800,000, whatever, to have him or her hold your money for that period.
Ladies can do it too.
So you have to identify that, whether you think, hey, am I just going to be out $1,000 or whatever the amount is, or do I think I can find a piece, and go from there? Because there's no penalty if you don't identify a property and find a property at the end of the 45 days. You're just out the money you paid the QI, right?
Yeah. And some guys think it's totally worth that gamble. You know what I mean? Just to have them hold on to it.
They're right.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way. Like if I sell this piece I have now down the road, I am 100% going to go the 1031 route.
Well, and a lot of guys line up the second property first, you know, like in other words, like you might see a deal come up and you're like, I'm going to buy it. So you already have that identified before you even sell your piece. So that's what a lot of people try to do, to buy themselves some time. It's just been hard in this current market because there's just not a whole lot of inventory. So
what is what's the sweet spot right now? Like the most difficult piece, like size wise, piece of ground that's like, if it comes up, it's gone in no time.
Everyone wants an 80. I'd say 80 acres or less. Between 80 and 30 acres. And you have to remember too, it's very market specific. So the market that I deal with is mostly within an hour and a half of the St. Louis area, 2 hours St. Louis.
Which is a little more costly. The ground's just more costly.
Yes, it's a lot more expensive. Very, very high demand. Pretty much my whole entire territory is in a very good location for the St. Louis market. At Whitetail Properties, we operate in territories, right? So in other words, like I've got like 8 or 9 counties that I run in. And that's where I can market myself, advertise myself. That's where I'm supposed to do the most of my business. Now, I can sell farms in other counties and other areas, but I can only market myself in that area. So
you call them turfs.
Turfs. We have turf wars from time to time.
That's what I'm talking about. You carry a switchblade.
I see you and Jeff Probst go at it.
Got to keep your head on a swivel out there.
He's probably a better bow shot than me, but I might be a better gun shot. So. But no, so when I'm talking about this stuff, it's I'm referring to the area that I specifically deal in most of the time. So yeah, if you can find anything 80 acres or under, the ideal property is 80 acres, maybe 30% open for food plots, a little pond or lake, and a little cabin. Like if you have one of those, you can sell those all day long.
Yeah.
I wish I had 100 of those listings. It would be insane.
Is that because the price point is just about right for the price point's good, and then like people can pretty much do whatever they wanted to do on it?
Yeah. Yep. It's big enough for them to hunt. They got the little lake, they can fish in and swim in. They got the open area for food plots, a little cabin, place to stay in. Price point probably be $500,000 or under. So it's just kind of the sweet spot for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we have been selling some bigger properties. They have been moving. So
when you sell a bigger piece, do you find that a lot of the times you're working with kind of a collaborative, like a few guys going in together on it?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of times on the larger pieces, you're either working with something like that with a group of guys, but more often than not, it's bigger investors. A lot of 1031 exchange money where maybe they sold a commercial piece of real estate or a duplex or something like that, or just another farm. They're looking to roll it in to another piece. So you just never know who you're going to run into, really.
In that Fundamental 5 series we do
for Moss Hills properties.
Yeah, Terry oftentimes talks about, some of those pieces are pretty pricey for an individual, but a lot of times he'll say, hey, you get a group of guys and go in together, and suddenly it becomes much more manageable price wise. I'm curious, like the logistics of how you work that out with a contract with, so like Matt's not bringing his family out running their 4-wheelers around when my expectations are it's strictly for hunting.
You have to be crystal clear on everyone's goals going in. And usually you need to farm an LLC with that group of guys, and there's ownership of the LLC. So everybody, it's clearly stated in the documents in the contract agreement who owns what percentage. It's almost like owning shares of a company or stock of a company. That is your company. And so you have to run it like a business. And then there would be recitals and reps and warranties, and there's all kinds of things that would go along with it that would protect you. Like you basically would, it's almost like you're starting a hunt club.
Yes.
And you would line out all the details as to what the do's and don'ts are. Otherwise, you have no say. You know what I mean? And then you're going to have a lot of butthurt people.
I generally recommend not doing that unless you're very, like Matt said, you are definitely on the same page with the people that you're partnering up with. You have a good exit plan. Otherwise, so-and-so brings their kids out, and then their kids bring their buddies, and now you got 18 people running around on a farm where it was originally supposed to be 5 people.
Yeah,
you know
especially
what I mean?
if their kids are terrible.
I sell a lot of properties because people went in with those intentions and it didn't work out.
And then it's hard to get out of it, because if one group doesn't want to sell and the other, and then you're like, I need to get out of this investment, unless they're willing to buy your investment from you, which you're not going to get what you could if you sold the whole property.
Oh, yeah.
It gets complicated, but it can be done. The less the better. The less people, the better, probably.
Yeah. If you can go in with a partner or two, and the situations where I see that it works the best is when you go in with someone and you say, we're going to buy this property. Our plan is strictly investment. Our plan is by year number 3, we're going to resell it. Then you already have the exit plan in place. You know what I mean? And then it's for investment. Depending what happens with the hunting. If you guys hunt it, bring some buddies up. It's not that big of a deal because that's not your sole purpose for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see things fall apart a lot with those. You better go in with someone that you really know and trust, that you guys' goals are identical. So
yeah, I can see how that would be fraught with challenges. Because even then, like, hey, I got a buddy in from out of town. Do you mind if, like, it's just a rare thing? Do you mind if he comes out?
And you're a dick when you say no.
Yeah, it's like, well,
and he kills the biggest deer on the property if he does go. And then you're like, man, we put all this hard work in. Yeah. And then your buddy comes and kills him. It just causes so much.
He's an Android user.
Because the cost of the farm is just one major expense. The cost of upkeep, the cost of the input costs, the time, that's where it really, oh my gosh,
blind
it really
stands
grows exponentially, and then you have someone else come in and you're happy for your partner and you're happy for them. But in the back of your mind, you're like, man, what the hell?
Yeah.
I need out of this.
Yeah. And like you said, I could see how it would be difficult to share like 25% of a piece of ground. Like, here's I'm selling a quarter of a share in a hunting piece.
Yeah. What I know Dan talked about this before, starting small. You know, I think he said like 4 or 8 acres or something like that. And then of course, you know, when he did it, it was a much different time, and people are very keyed into land sales now.
Yes.
Recreational land sales and the how that's an investment. And there's some big time players that have some big time money that you just can't almost compete with as a newcomer. But there are deals to be found, and a lot of times it might be that it's a relationship that you've been working over time, a landowner that you've been leasing from, or a permission, and you've been working that angle. But when it comes time to sell, you better have your ducks in a row and be ready to pounce on it, because you got to maximize their ability to gain a profit off of their property. Yeah. So it's going to have to be for fair. You're not going to get a discount. And if you do, it's going to be very small. So you got to be ready to pounce. You better have your financing ready. You better have a rainy day down payment, 20% type down payment that you've been working on, you know, or be able to liquidate something to do that. Those things don't happen very quickly. And Aaron can tell you, the land market, things can happen very quickly.
Very quickly.
Like, you got to be ready.
Yeah. I mean, there's been times where there's farms we thought were going to come for sale and they never did. And owners decide not to sell. And then one day all of a sudden it's up and then it's bought. And you're like, I thought I was going to be the first phone call on that.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
And it didn't. Have your down payment ready. That's probably the biggest obstacle for most people is coming up with a down payment, because, you know, most banks are going to want 20 to 30%. Well, you start spending a few $100,000, that adds up really quick. And that's kind of on the low end of, you know, some of these farms.
So you mentioned 30%, because I had always just heard 20. What would be like someone has bad credit? Is that when they are looking at a 30% down payment?
You know, you don't see as much 30% anymore. When I first got in the business, you saw a lot of banks wanting that. But now I would say 20% is really kind of the standard. And you can get into some 15% scenarios, but the standard would be 20.
Okay.
Yep.
And you would probably have not only a great credit score, but like very low debt to income ratio. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of factors that play into it that you'd have to kind of figure out ahead of time. But you know, you can also shop around too. You could do HELOCs. I had to do a home equity line of credit when I first started getting into this, because Dad and I formed an LLC together. He was the majority owner. I was a minor, you know, owner.
Did he remind you of that?
No, well, only when it came time to buy or sell. Like, I had not much input.
Needless to say, Matt.
But that was the key to me being able to do it, was having somebody like that was interested. He knew his stuff. You know what I mean? He's done it forever. So it was a good opportunity for me. And I just kind of defer to what he wants to do in that instance.
Sure.
But in order for me to come up with my small part of our LLC, I had to take out a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. So basically, you're in for my home loan, the house is worth X, and I owe Y. Well, they have a formula where they're going to go in and say, okay, based on this, you have X amount of money that you can have a home equity line of credit for. Yeah. And so it was like a 10-year loan, and it's a higher rate than what you're typically would want. So you don't want to have to use it if you don't need it. But I needed it in order to put the down payment on the very first farm. But I paid it off as soon as we sold that farm. That's you're making payments on it all along, but then once you sell it, that's the first thing you pay off with the profits.
And I assume you get that loan behind your wife's back and tell her after the fact.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You did really good though. I mean, you've done well on your farm deals. And to that, what Matt had just said with the HELOCs, I think one of the other reasons that we've had such a boom in the land real estate is housing values skyrocketed, interest rates plummeted over the last 5 years. So all of a sudden, these people have so much more equity in their properties, and they can refinance into a lower interest rate. Yeah. They can pull out all this tax-free cash, and now that's their farm down payment that they never had access to before.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to go about it, but if you really do your research, which all this stuff, once you really dive in and start Googling this stuff, there's so much of this information is out there. You can find ways to come up with the down payment. Like if the down payment is the hurdle that you can't get over, there are ways to figure out how to come up with it. Yes. Plus saving for it. That's definitely that's definitely a harder road. Like it takes a long time to save up for the kind of money that we're talking for. Unless you're buying just a few acres, it's more manageable. But if you're talking 50 acre, 30, 40, 50 acres at these types of per acre prices, it can be costly for the down payment. So you have to get creative and take on some risk. That's the other part.
You have to be willing to be uncomfortable to get it done. And a lot of people don't. There's a threshold there of comfort that they want to be in. And I understand it. I really do. But at the end of the day, if you want to make things happen, sometimes you just got to stick your neck out there a little bit.
And I remember it was a little different when I started with Dad in the LLC, and it's like I was a minority stakeholder, right? And so it was a lot to me, and I went through the pain, of coming up with that down payment. It was a lot, but once we got rolling, I felt a little more comfortable, and ultimately, I knew he was an expert in the field. Once he's like, "Hey, I'm not really interested in doing this any further, but hey, take it and run with it." And I had to go on my own. Then that first one, total panic attack, total once I signed the deal, it's like, how the hell am I going to be able to pay for this? What did I just do? And leading up to that, and I've said it on here before, but he said one thing to me. He goes, you're never going to be comfortable when you make a deal like this. It's always going to feel like, what am I doing? And you'll figure it out. Unless it's just if you make a bad move and bad deal, that's one thing. But if you're smart about it and you educate yourself and go into it, knowing kind of the dangers of it, he's like, you'll figure it out. Because I was like, man, I don't know that I can afford this. He's like, you'll figure out a way. I never could. And I always figured it out.
Yeah.
I've yet to talk to anyone who said they regretted buying a piece of property in the land sales.
Yeah. Well, and having someone that you trust as your agent is probably a really important component to it that's going to advise you and ensure that you stay within kind of the bounds of what you can manage.
For sure. Yeah. And there's a lot of, real estate companies out there. We talked about Mossy Oak Properties and Whitetail Properties is probably the big gorilla, I'd say, out there. And they had kind of the early start in the industry, created the industry in a lot of ways, but there's several others as well. And there's a ton of agents. And for the most part, Aaron, you've dealt with a lot of agents. I'm sure there's a couple bad apples here and there, but in general, these are usually outdoorsmen and good dudes that, are probably not trying to screw you over or sell you something that's not great.
No, I mean, most of the guys I work with either Whitetail or competing companies, most everyone's pretty good. You do run into a couple bad apples here and there. But most of the time they're pretty good. And a lot of times those bad apples, the land industry is so small, word gets out really quick.
Sure.
So it's like, you better behave yourself. And with social media these days, if you treat someone wrong, you're going to get blown up over it. So the bad apples pretty much get weeded out.
So on a piece of, say you're trying to buy a piece of property and you don't know much about, what should I be looking out for? What are some of the pitfalls here? There's this piece, the price is super low. It almost seems too good to be true. Typically, is it too good to be true? I mean, I know there's usually disclosures that the current owner will have to go through and tell you about, but if the price is just way cheaper than anything else, usually there's a hook, right?
Yeah, usually it's too good to be true. A few years ago, that wouldn't necessarily be the case, but with land values that have gone up so much and everyone just kind of knows about it now. I mean, if there's going to be an issue there somewhere, whether it's access issue or mineral rights or, whatever, WRP, which, that tends to go a lot cheaper anyway.
Yeah. What's WRP?
Wetlands Reserve Program.
So basically it's you have a piece of ground where the previous owner, somewhere down the line, had basically sold certain rights to the government for this program, and they reaped the benefits of that return at that time. But it's very restrictive in what you can do going forward. You may be able to plant some food plots, but you can't
develop on it. You can't harvest trees. You can get variances and like permission, right? But it's all going to be wrote out. The upside to that is you can get the ground way cheaper. A lot of times like half the price of the going rate in that area. But you do have these stipulations that come along with it. For someone who's just wanting like really good piece of hunting ground, a lot of times WRP is great hunting ground. It's usually along rivers, low-lying areas. I've seen some really big deer and turkeys come out of that. You just have to deal with some stuff.
Eyes wide open.
With the river farm that Dad and I had in Pike County for a period of time, it was in a program like WRP, and for what we do, it wasn't an issue because we planted the amount of food plots that we were allowed to. We worked with the local guy in charge of that area, and who everybody said, this guy's tough and this is going to be hard. Sean. And we had a great relationship with him. I presented the plan of what we wanted to do for food plots, and we mapped it out, and we were very specific, and he was great to work with. He approved everything. But he'd check in. Sometimes he'd show up. Like there's things that they do and they have the rights to do because you're in this program. You just have to deal with. But to Aaron's point, like what we were able to purchase it for was a steal, especially in like today's market. It would have really been a steal. But it's amazing the deal that you can get for it if you know. I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z on it going in. Well,
so you mentioned finding a piece of ground that's too good to be true. There was a 12-acre piece near literally a mile up the road from my house that Cody West, who's another agent, went with me to look at because I was like, oh man, the cost is kind of in something I could potentially do, and it's so close. Me being able to manage it would just be a lot easier. But we got out there, and it's like, well, this would be a great property to hang glide from because it's so darn steep, and they had a big power line easement through it and everything. But it was fascinating to kind of walk it with Cody and hear, obviously I trust Cody. He's on the team. He's not going to steer me wrong. And he was like, Tim, it's a good price, but it's been on the market for 1,400 days. There's a reason why it's been on the market for so long. You can't build on it. It's not, you could hunt it, but it's not that great for hunting. And there's we were visiting there at the kind of a trailhead, and a neighbor came walking down. It was clear the neighbor was not cool with hunting, which is another factor. I don't want to automatically be in some kind of conflict with a guy that lives adjacent. Yeah. So it was too good to be true for sure.
Well, and you have to look at your exit strategy. Like if it's been on the market for 1,400 days, how long is it going to take for you to sell it if you want to?
Exactly.
And you're probably going to want to sell for more. So.
And part of my case to my wife was it's an investment. Like you buy this and then you flip it and make some money, move up to something a little bigger. And I was thinking about that time when it would be time to unload it. Unless I found a hang gliding club that wanted to buy it.
You can do zip lines.
It was incredibly steep. I could not believe how steep it was. It's the same valley that I live in. I just didn't realize it got so acute way back up in there. But we looked at it on DeerCast maps, and I could tell a lot of contour lines real close to each other there.
Never a good sign.
But until you get out and walk it, because I really thought that power line cut might be cleared, and it just wasn't. So the difference between virtually scouting and actually being on the ground with an agent was totally different.
Now, that is a good point. Do you guys see that as the type of property where when you're wanting to start small and build, those are the ones you look for?
100%. I'm doing it right now. I bought a little piece out in Callaway County, and just 50 acres of thick, gnarly cover, a lot of cedars and pines and thick brush. We cleared out about 1.5 acre food plot right in the middle, and hopefully we get that finished up here next few weeks and get it ready for fall planting. Just putting that food plot in right there is going to enhance the value significantly. Mm-hmm. See, and we're going to put a blind right there and have it all turnkey whenever I go to resell it.
And that's the key, turnkey.
Yes.
Pun intended, because a lot of guys don't have the equipment or the know-how or the knowledge. And so they're like, I really want a piece of property, but they're willing to pay for a piece of property that's set up and ready to hunt and has some history.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially the St. Louis market. These guys are busy. They don't necessarily have the time to make it a 365 day type of hunting season like we kind of do. We're always out of the properties doing what we need to do, but they definitely in the fall want to be able to utilize it. So they want something turnkey, and they want to have connections for guys who can go out there, do their plots for them, check stands, run cameras, stuff like that. And we have all those connections. Use Logan a lot.
Yeah.
Turnkey is definitely, you can never go wrong with turnkey ever.
Yeah. So what should somebody be looking for right now? This market, not just St. Louis, but think across the country here, and how do they get started if they've never done it before?
First of all, make sure you have your finances in order. So whether that's kind of have an idea what your budget is going to be, and then building up your down payment to accommodate that budget. And then once you have that, that's really when you should start looking for properties. Otherwise, if you're looking for properties and you don't have your finances in order, you're probably wasting your time. Mm-hmm. So that would be step one. And then after that, you want to look for a property where, you have to decide if it's going to be a long-term home, like if it's going to be your forever farm, or if it's going to be strictly for investment for a few years, hunt it, develop it, make it into a type of property that's going to appeal to the next landowner. And then once you identify that, then you kind of know what strategy to go with. Because if it's going to be long-term, and it's your dream property forever, buy it, even if you have to pay a premium, because the value is only going to go up over time anyway. Like, don't miss out on it. If you're looking for something short-term hold, let's say 2 to 5 years, then you need to be a little bit more careful on how much you're going to pay for that property, because you are going to resell it.
You don't want something that's a premium that's top dollar in that instance that you can't then
enhance it, improve it,
yeah,
and create more value.
Yeah. So what's next after that?
Find a good agent that can help you find the properties. Yeah. And then after that, just an issue of just getting it bought. Okay.
And in relation to the agent, how often, you and I touch base all the time because we're friends and we've known each other for 15 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so we naturally already touch base all the time. Mm-hmm. But what if you're a guy, you're trying to find an agent in your area? How often do you check in with them? How often do you, hey, what's going on? What's too much from your side of it?
I think it just depends on how ready you are. I have guys who check in with me all the time, and they're like, I know they're still a couple years away from buying anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, let's stay in touch, but just know that you're asking about properties that aren't even going to be around anymore whenever you're ready to buy, Now, if you're ready, able, and willing buyer, yeah, let's talk. And then we'll start looking at farms, touch base with me every couple days, every week if you want, So it really just depends on what kind of inventory is available there. But it's varying levels.
And you better be ready to move.
Yeah.
Like if you go look at a property and it's the property you want, you better
be ready.
Better be ready to somehow get an agreement going that day.
Yes.
Because there's going to be somebody that's ready to look at it right behind you.
There's going to be someone else. Yeah, 100%.
Unless the property is haunted.
Yeah, and which you don't want.
Do you have to disclose that in Missouri?
Haunted property.
I never had. I don't think I've ever sold a property that I knew was haunted. I've never been asked that question before, quite frankly.
I've heard
we disclose a lot of stuff. I've never disclosed that it was haunted.
Let the record show. I've heard that the people who are selling homes in Missouri have to disclose if they believe the home is haunted. And I don't know if that's true or not.
Maybe Jess has come into his wife is a real estate agent as well.
Yeah, she's on the residential side, so she would know way more about that.
Why isn't she here?
She's a sharp. Jess.
She would be a much more intelligent conversation than I would be.
Are we recording this? Can we just
just edit it out and we'll just call her because
I'd love to have Jess in.
I bet you would.
I love Jess.
No, she's way sharper than I am. So
she's sharp.
I'm kind of a downgrade right now. I'm just here to hang out.
Right. Didn't have anything.
Fill in the gaps for you guys.
We need it in layman's terms.
We got it.
No, there's all kinds of stuff we have to disclose on these properties, but I haven't had to do anything with haunted, and I don't see anywhere on these disclosures where you have to disclose if it's haunted property.
I can't believe we're still talking about it.
We did see a full-bodied apparition one time, so we better.
I mean, a lot of deer and turkeys were murdered on this property. I guess, we show all the pictures, right? How graphic you want to get with it.
that is kind of an interesting aspect of land sales is you see trail cam pictures of deer that may or may not still be on the property.
Well, he told me once that I believe I remember this right, that people would rather see dead, like hero pictures than trail camera pictures of a deer that might be alive. They want to see what already died there.
Yeah, it's people want to see harvest photos. They want to see that there's proof that people were able to kill them here.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I get that. I guess I'd be the same way, but it's like those deer are already dead.
Yeah,
like,
I want to know
what
what
about
deer
fresh
right now.
trail camera pictures that are still running around
Like
on
the
there.
first thing we try to do is get a camera up. Like, hey, see if they'll let me put a camera up to see what is here now.
Yeah.
And in Missouri, a lot of my landowners, a lot of my sellers, they just don't take very good documentation of trail cameras. And the big deer are there. The turkeys are there. They just don't.
A lot of people delete their trail camera pictures, which I don't know. We never have. I've never deleted, the ones that the keepers, right? And a lot of people just delete that stuff or don't, maybe they have a shitty picture on their phone that they took from their computer screen.
Don't do that.
No.
Picture of a picture.
I hear it all the time. It was on a computer. I have to go find the pictures.
Yeah.
And
or they left it on the car.
Or I think my buddy, he's got a thumb drive with the pictures from a few years back. We'll see. And I'm like, man, like these pictures are going to help, hold the value of what we're trying to sell here. Like, please provide pictures if you have them.
So that's a great point. So if you have a property and you're wanting to unload it at some point in the future, you better have almost a well lined out history of you think about like you have a file cabinet and you've filed all these things away, but it's on your computer or your phone. Like you can manage those things pretty easily and it will pay dividends in the long run when you go to sell.
100%. So, if you're allowed to feed, like during summertime when it's not season, feed and put a camera there and get inventory of all those deer and turkeys come there, especially the big bucks. Run lots of cameras. Even if you got to spend a few $100 more, buy a couple more and put them out. The more cameras you have, the more pictures you're going to have.
Use pictures from someone else's ground.
Use pictures from a couple farms over.
A good way to get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I've had people call me. Are those pictures really from that farm? Like, as far as I know, they are. Like, the landowner supplied them. He swore up and down.
Yeah,
but that kind of stuff is going to build your value. And then whenever you guys do harvest a nice buck or a turkey, like take the extra time, take a good picture.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get guys sitting in a truck, beer cans everywhere, and they're holding this bloody, and that's cool. Like we get it, but it doesn't make for the best presentation. And a lot of websites won't even allow us to even post that on there.
Yeah.
So
these are just some of the do's and don'ts. I mean, if you really are serious about wanting to, if it's like you said, if you're going in to try to find one piece of property and it's your forever piece, that's one thing. Yeah. But if you're utilizing this as part of your portfolio and you're wanting to start gaining some wealth for your family, this is a business. So you have to treat it as such. And
you have to build value.
You got to be pretty buttoned up.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes building that value isn't that hard. It's just as easy as running trail camera pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the mistakes people make, in this process, whether it's the first time or they're selling a piece they've owned for a while? What are some of the mistakes?
Probably biggest mistake would be I see a lot of guys that log their properties out before they sell.
Yeah.
They have marketable timber and, I had a logger come in and I'm going to make 50 grand on my timber, and so they go and they log the place out and it looks like a bomb went off. Now, granted, it makes for incredible wildlife habitat. Like the hunting on that place is only going to enhance.
At some point.
It'll take a couple years, but it looks awful. You're going to get way less money on the sales side. So even if you made 50, 100 grand, whatever that logger paid you, you're going to lose probably double that on the sales side,
Because the potential buyer looks at it like,
the value's been robbed off of this place.
There's no value here. Mm-hmm. It'll take 20 more years to get more value out of the timber.
Yeah, and it just doesn't look as nice, It just doesn't show as good. The aesthetics have been ruined. So, and I'm not advocating against logging because there's a lot of instances where it needs to be done, especially select cuts.
Yeah.
It's great for the habitat, but just don't do it if you're planning on selling a piece of ground.
Don't do it right before you're planning on selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even within a few years. I mean, really, unless you're going to do very select cuts.
And I get it because a lot of guys will buy a piece and if the timber's there, they're like, okay, here's a way that I can immediately help make the next X amount of payments on this farm. And it's part of how they factor in their finances. But if you're planning on flipping it, that's the problem. Yeah. So
no, timber harvest is a great way to be able to assist with, with paying for the farm. I know a lot of guys do, and you can do it strategically too, depending on the size of the farm where your timber's at. You could go in and log 20 or 30 acres. Let's say you have a 100-acre property, and maybe it's where an ideal bedding area would be, or where you want the deer to be, or maybe it's on the back side of the farm where it doesn't ruin the aesthetics of the whole entire farm. That's one thing. But when you go in and have them just clear cut it, I just listed a farm in Callaway County, Missouri, and it's a beautiful farm. Beautiful farm. Probably hit the market next week. They almost had a logger come in. The logger was going to give him $250,000 to log it. But he was probably going to come in and just flatten the place. And I was like, the best thing you ever did. Actually, they had already agreed to do it, and the logger never showed up. I guess he just close call. I don't think he just couldn't have time in his schedule or whatever. And like it would have been logged like a couple months ago if they would have done it. I'm like, the best thing that ever happened to you guys is not logging this place.
Not only that, but now they can go and on the listing you say it has X amount of value of timber on it. That's a selling point.
That's a huge selling point.
Right.
Whether or not that buyer decides to use it or not, it'll still help them feel comfortable that I got this if I need it.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, so there's a lot of things. There's a lot of do's and don'ts. We kind of went through some of the high points here. Anything else that we're missing out on? We talked about finance. We talked about 1031s.
I think just the overall land market right now, it's still strong. It feels more like a normal market, let's say pre-2017. Whereas the past few years, if you were a seller, you had all the leverage.
It was insane.
People were just fighting over your ground. You didn't have to give up anything. You don't have to negotiate anything. Like they had to win you over, right? Yeah. Now it's kind of back to almost a normal market where now there's more negotiating going back and forth. Properties are still moving and moving rather quickly, but not like it was before. People are being a little bit more cautious. The values are still there. They're still strong. But it definitely feels like more like a normal market. So
do you see that trend continuing?
Man, I don't know, because it seems like the market changes every few weeks. What we're seeing. Some weeks are slow. Some weeks are incredibly high speed. And then you have the time of the year. Generally speaking, summertime farm sales tend to slow down a little bit just because people are on vacation. They're down at the lake. They don't want to get ticks and chiggers and all that stuff on them. And you can't really see what you're looking at. It looks like Vietnam out there, right? Well, the last few years, it hasn't mattered what time of year because inventory's been so low. It's like if a farm came up, they're going to be there immediately. So inventory's still low. So as long as it's low, values are going to remain high and buyer activity is going to be pretty hot and heavy on it. So
okay.
The interest rates, you touched on it just briefly, but what kind of rates are you guys seeing from, because you have several lenders that you recommend and people reach out to. What kind of rates are we looking at right now?
Yeah, for the most part in the sevens, mid to high sevens, it seems like.
And it was 3 just year and a half ago. It's crazy.
Yeah. So when I first got in the business in 2012, rates were like 6s, mid 6s. And no one batted an eye at that.
No.
So we're really not too far from that. We just had such a long time where they were so low that we're kind of in an adjustment period right now where people have to get used to those rates, and they might come back down, but they have to get used to the idea of the higher rates, and the sellers have to get used to the idea that they're going to have to negotiate a little bit more on their price.
As a buyer, basically you think about financing in a way like the rates you can afford half of what you could have afforded a year and a half ago. Yes. That's basically what happened with rates.
I'm seeing a lot of finance buyers that are adjusting their budgets down.
Yeah.
The problem is with inventory still being low, the prices are still high. So when you adjust it down, you really kind of, I don't want to say weed yourself out of the market, but you're definitely not going to get what you want to get.
Yeah. And know that you can refinance if they start coming down. You can always refinance. So it just kind of is what it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right.
Well, let's hop into the real wild clip. It is powered by Silencer Central.
All right. So let's see. What do we got this week?
This came from one of our DeerCasters. This is trail cam video.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at a bobcat walking across a field with something in its mouth.
What is that? It looks like a rabbit, but then you see another angle and the thing is on the ground. It's a kit.
That's cool.
Or a cub.
Yeah. Kit?
It's
cat?
Bobcat cub? Kit Kat?
Love Kit Kats.
It's a time. Oh, me too. How do you eat a Kit Kat?
The whole thing all at once. Just bite it. Don't snap off one and just have one like a little girl. Take a bite out of the whole bar. Be a man.
Eat it like you're supposed to eat it.
Bennett, do you see many bobcats out when you're walking the properties and stuff like that?
Not so much when I'm out walking properties, but I've seen a lot more from a deer stand and from turkey hunting. Like growing up, God dang, I don't know if I ever really saw one growing up. And then the last 10 years, it's just been like they're just very normal to see.
They seem to be on the rise for sure. But yeah, it's cool. So that bobcat was just relocating its baby. They're cute when they're tiny like that.
I wonder how many cats they have.
It depends on how many hatch out of the eggs that they lay.
You think? Are there any nest predators for them?
Have you come across any bobcat eggs on your walks around properties?
More than you would ever imagine.
Those are turds.
Is that why? There's never any babies inside them. Bobcats are cool. I hope to get a bobcat pelt someday.
They eat turkeys.
They do. Yeah.
They must be trapped.
Ooh. Okay. Question of the day.
All right. The question of the day is proudly presented by Tracker Off-Road. Tracker Off-Road vehicles are purpose-built to get you and your gear on the trail to your next adventure quicker and easier than ever. I'd like to say quieter as well. That 800's pretty quiet. Of course, the EV is silent. So,
even quieter.
That's right.
Those are awesome, man. I love that Tracker EV.
That EV is pretty awesome.
It is. If I had more room in my garage, I'd toy around with getting one myself.
Yeah. I somehow messed up our brake line on ours, so it's currently it's currently at the Tracker mechanic shop.
You couldn't just drive it gingerly and not use the brakes?
Honestly, you don't need the brakes on it. I toyed with not fixing it because you don't need the brakes. Like when you let off, it naturally stops pretty quickly. Yeah. Okay. On a hill, anything. They're slick, man. The EVs are really awesome.
Drive it without the brakes.
You do. I mean, I don't really use the brakes, but if you do hit the brakes, apparently there's some fluid coming out.
Much like the way Matt drives his truck.
No,
and Terry.
No, there's a lot of brake happening there.
Terry asked me one time how fast I drive. I was like, I'm usually a 5 over guy. He's like, so you're slow.
Essentially.
Yes. Mentally.
So.
What are you getting at, Terry?
I don't know. Maybe Terry was playing Monopoly on me or something. I don't know.
One time, my grandpa, this is a toxic trait that runs through the family. And so my grandpa was notorious for speeding as well, but he was a big construction foreman and he was always driving from one construction site to the other.
Yep.
Yeah, place to be, and he's late to get there. And so he was driving to work one morning and he got pulled over. This is before the interstate system, so it was on Highway 61 coming out of Bloomsdale going somewhere. He got pulled over on the way to work and he going probably 20 over or whatever it was, and he got a ticket. And then on the way back home that night, he got pulled over by the same cop in the same place doing the same speed limit.
Didn't learn his lesson.
No, he didn't.
At least he's consistent.
Yeah, so it's a toxic trait.
Yeah. Well, you guys believe in supporting your local law enforcement.
That's right. All right. So the question of the day is brought to you by Anthony.
Hey, Matt, Tim, this is Anthony Bandy. I was wondering, one of the questions I have for you guys is, what do you spray on your food plots to keep them clean and healthy?
Well, Tim, if I would have had a heads up on that, I would have had Scott on this podcast. There's like a concoction that Wade and Perry and those guys, Forrest, all use. Hey, Scott, send me your special concoction. And it's different for like clover. It's one thing, but for our fall plantings, it's another thing.
The plot star or the plot boost.
Well, that's not necessarily to keep it clean. That helps it grow. The deer grow, the plot boost, and hold on.
Here comes Scott.
Scott's got it. Scott. Oh yeah, hold on. Scott. All right. So for clover spray,
Looks like a math problem.
for a 15 gallon of spray per acre, he does 2 applications per year, one in the late spring and one in the early summer. So for instance, we're getting ready for our second round here. So he does 7 ounces of IMOX per acre. All right. He does 20 ounce section 3 per acre. Okay. And then 2 pounds ammonium sulfate per acre, 1 gallon surfactant per every 100 gallons of H2O. Holy crap, Scott. You don't get paid?
The surfactant's usually like Dawn dish soap or something.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Radish and last bite fertilizer, 100. Okay. So these are just some of his notes. So fertilizer is different than keeping it clean, but
We could drop these in the show notes.
yeah, for sure. Scott knows way more about it. He spends way more time at the farms than I do. I'm stuck here. But what do you use, Aaron?
Well, I mean, on my clover, I use clethodim, and then I put like the plot start on it.
That's a Deer Grow
product. And then on my biologic, like on my fall plots, my brassicas, I really don't spray it. I'll put some plot boost on them, but other than that, like once they're coming up,
you've taken care of the weeds ahead of time. So you're just killing the weeds before you really plant or disc or do anything you're doing.
Everything's killed up. So then once we plant, because usually I'm using biologic last bite or maximum or deer radishes. I mean, they kind of take care of themselves.
What are you using to do the kill before you plant?
So generally Roundup is what we use. I had a trouble food plot last year. I think we had to spray that thing like 3 or 4 times. And then Logan went out there and he zapped it with some pretty hardcore stuff. I don't remember what it...
Gly is the typical
Yes.
kill it all off.
This stuff was
solution.
getting really resistant to Gly. So I can't remember what Logan used on it. He finally, on the 4th time, I think he zapped it really good.
So I know like we were seeing some issues too with like cleth wasn't doing it for the clover and like there are certain grasses and weeds that were coming up, and Mark and Wade and those guys had this formula they came up with, and it changed our plot big time. Like when we started using their exact formula that I was just talking about that Scott gave me, it was amazing.
Text that to me.
It was amazing the difference of the clover plots, biologic non-typical clover plots that we thought were toast that we needed to replant that had been there for 4, 5, 6 years.
Came back.
I mean, they're our best food plots, aren't they, Scott? Yeah. So they're just awesome.
Did they mix any Gly in with that recipe? Because I know you can kind of burn that clover with Gly a little bit and it'll come back.
Yeah, the ammonium sulfate is actually that high nitrogen. So
Yep.
that is kind of acting as the Gly.
So the ammonium.
And they mix that with the cleth and then the surfactant.
So for everybody that's listening to this podcast, why don't you come over
The whole
here?
10 people.
This is why people
That's
need to be part of
offensive,
the
sir.
studio audience.
Okay, so like the ammonium sulfate that you put in there, which is a granular sprayable sulfate, that kind of acts as your Gly or your high nitrogen source to kind of get more of a kill. So you can burn the outside edges of those clovers, but they will bounce back from that because clovers actually produce their own nitrogen. So, I mean, it kind of doesn't harm it as much as it does the grasses.
Sure.
All right.
Scott's
Wow.
way more knowledgeable at this stuff than I am. I will never pretend to tell you something I don't really understand or know. I don't understand it.
That's what you're paying for.
No fake news here.
That's right.
So Anthony hit me up in the Rack Pack on Facebook, and we will send a 100% Wild podcast hat out to you. And if you are interested and have a question you'd like us to answer on air and want a podcast hat, just hit the link in the show notes.
And we'll put that formula that we had just talked about. We'll put that into the show notes.
Heck
as well.
yeah.
And actually, we might be able to just put it up on the graphic of this as well.
We can do both.
Great question, Anthony.
For sure. Faux show.
Okay. All right. The Wildlife Word is brought to you by Cold Steel Knives. No good hunter is ever caught without a sharp blade at their side. Be ready for whatever jobs you need to get done on your dirt this summer with a cold steel knife. That's right. It's the sound you make when you get stabbed. Okay, we're back to a little turkey talk here. This condition can cause tumors, enlarged spleens, internal lesions, and even death in wild turkeys. Is it A,
Too much vodka?
cirrhosis? Is it A, lymphoproliferative disease, B, spleen splosion, C, jicket crumpulitis, or D, kung flu?
Huge.
I think it's A.
I think it's A. I wish it was D though. That's a cooler
I
name.
got a case of the kung flu on my property. Turkeys are dying left and right.
That's right.
Getting karate chopped.
I'm gonna go A.
A.
Lymphoproliferative disease is correct. Just one more one more knock against turkeys. They have so much that they're fighting against. They've got this lymphoproliferative disease too.
Okay.
Bad news.
What's next?
We got good news. Brandon D. Abbott gave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. He said, great podcast by Matt and Tim. A good balance of humor and information. Excellent guests.
$200 is $200.
Hopefully he still has the same opinion after this show.
Yeah, if we get a 4 rating, we know what happened.
Yeah. Sorry guys.
Can I take away a star?
I just downgrade the show. Jessica.
Jessica's up next. Bounce these numbers back.
All right. So last part. We welcome new Rack Pack members. You're a Rack Packer.
Am I?
Are you? I'm pretty sure you
Check
are.
the list, Tim.
I know Andrew is. Andrew comments in there all the time.
Does, yeah. We love
Timmy is. God dang it, Aaron.
I'm pretty sure I am. I don't know.
What is
Maybe
wrong
I
with our
could
team
be.
members? I'm pretty sure you're in there. Well, anyways, every week we talk about bringing in new Rack Pack members. So you go to Facebook, you type in Dre Outdoors Rack Pack, you answer some questions. Are you in there, Aaron?
I don't know. Maybe this app is broke.
Yeah, we're looking
And anyways, every week I read off your name. Every week Tim gives me a fake name in there.
like a stinker. Excuse my language.
I don't think so, Tim.
The Facebook says no results for Aaron Bennett.
You son of a gun.
I'm pretty sure that
Facebook's probably lying.
Well, actually, I had to redo my Facebook page, so maybe since I've redone it, I'm not back.
See,
in
what
there.
happened was that's all right.
I don't feel the
Hey,
need
if
to be
I
a
didn't
Rack
have to
Pack
be in
member.
there
I'm already like we're dudes.
real life Rack Pack.
Yeah, real life Rack Pack. It's not the digital Rack Pack.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
Well, if you ever
I'm
wanted
enraged.
to join up, we would invite you in.
I'll join right now. How about that?
I'm triggered.
I love coercing people into joining our club.
How do you think it grows? How many? We're up to a couple thousand in there.
Show me the
1.8K.
No, we're not.
Just search
Hey,
for Rack
okay. Hey, how about this? At a couple thousand, we'll do a giveaway.
Ooh.
Free subscription to DeerCast Unlimited. That's right. No, we're not giving that. So we're pointing at, everybody's pointing at this dehydrator, this Cabela's 160 liter.
It's baboon size. You can dehydrate a baboon.
You said at 2,000, doesn't people get to pick out what you wear on that podcast?
Oh, did we?
I'm pretty sure there was some.
I think if we got to it that week.
Yeah, I like that.
So
That's the ticket.
if we get to 2,000, we'll do a giveaway, a free unlimited subscription to DeerCast, and that's a $75
I
value.
hope I win.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
All right. So help us get to 2,000.
I just asked to join.
Sweet. Well, I'll have to review it later, and we'll see.
I'm under
Can't make
review,
any
Matt.
promises.
I'm under review.
You're already unlimited. Unlimited fun. Unlimited potential. We're just
like
trying
that.
to reach it.
That's right.
All right. We got Cody Blackford, Jerry Grandstaff. Oh, hold on. I got a call in 5 minutes. I got to get out of here. Cody Blackford, Jerry Grandstaff, John Stahl. Is that the guy that's on like 2020? John Stahl.
Yeah, that's him.
That's what I thought. Billy Dean Meckley. The three names. Serial killer.
Serial killer?
Kyle Tobin, Brett Windsor, Corey Catlin, Briar Adams, Fawn Droppington.
Sweet name.
I think it's Fawn Droppington is the fake this week.
No, I don't think so.
It's Kyle
gotta be real.
Tobin. Kyle's living a lie. Don't touch fawns, people.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
That's right. People come here for PSAs, I think, mostly.
That's right.
To learn how to live.
Aaron, in less than 5 minutes, real quick, tell us a turkey story from this spring. You got to hunt with a couple of celebrities. Tell us a good one.
Let me think on
I
that.
think I've already told the story about how you ruined our turkey hunt with Adam Wainwright.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trying to hide a 6'7" dude behind a turkey fan's a little tough.
And a 5'8" Italian.
Yeah.
The turkey train.
We've got to line up some easier kill birds.
It's the bird's fault.
Had a really cool hunt with Down Trump Jr.
Who's that?
He's some dude.
He's been on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We've never pissed off more people in a short amount of time than when we had him on the
people
podcast.
did
He's
get
a
angry.
super cool dude. We hunted over Hadley Creek. It was a charity hunt, and we both killed our bird right off the bat and hung out for the next 2 or 3 days back at the lodge. Super nice guy. Super big hunter.
Yeah.
He kills a lot of stuff.
Well, to
He
keep
makes
it
us look weak.
to keep it even, I expect you to hunt with Hunter Biden next spring.
I'll try.
We'll throw an invite out there.
Not
We
behind bars.
invited Joe Biden on the podcast.
Would
Didn't get a response.
Shit, I don't even know if he knows what a podcast is.
So Don was cool though, huh?
That was super cool. We had a really good time. He killed his. I think I killed my bird right off the bat. He killed his probably about an hour later, and then we kind of hung out the lodge for the next couple days. But really good dude. I mean, he's got all kinds of fun stories, and obviously he's a patriot and just really nice, sincere.
Plays football.
Loves talking with people. Incredible marksman. Some of the stories he was telling us about long range shooting, and it was an awesome time. That's probably the best turkey story I have, even though there's not much turkey involved in that other than that we killed right off the bat. But from the
Just a
spring,
side note.
yeah, just kind of a side note.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
It's a cool experience.
It was very cool.
All right. Well,
Sweet.
on that note, I gotta go. I got a call in 3 minutes.
Shut her down.
Let's just continue the show without Matt.
That's
Tim,
fine.
and then we'll
Good
just
luck.
talk crap on Matt.
It's like a window into my soul.
I got more fake names to come up with. It takes me a couple days.
Let's stay on. We'll call Terry, get him on the line, and see what stories
Terry
he's
probably
got.
would. Yeah.
He probably would.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
He loves it.
yeah, like Matt's gone.
But you don't say that.
Oh. Well, we'll end the show with Matt, and Matt will be back next week for episode number 323.
Oh, he's so handsome.
Just
look at him. Just look at him.
I love that.
All right. Well, until
Aaron,
next time.
Yeah, Aaron, thanks for coming to the studio.
Thanks for having me
Appreciate
on, guys. It's fun. Let's
Yeah.
do it more.
All right. Until next time. Peace out.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Leupold.